NA, this is NA1SS, VE1MR. I have you loud and clear. How me?
Good morning, Bob. Welcome to Smiley's Provincial Park, Nova Scotia. Stand by for your first question. We're receiving you loud and clear. Over.
Copy. Ready for the first question.
Good day, Dr. Thirsk.
Close.
This is Dave. You are in free fall, or as the physicist John Wheeler put it, free float. What does it feel like, and do you get used to it? Over.
Hi, Dave. Free fall is magic. It's another way of saying weightlessness. I'm able to fly about the space station like Superman or flit from wall to wall like Spider-Man. It's a magical, magical feeling. It's very difficult the first few days as I learn to adapt to space flight, but after that it feels like I was born here. Over.
A very good day to you, Dr. Thirsk. My name is Carlotta. What atmospheric pressure are your EVA suits regulated at? Over.
Good morning, Carlotta. Our EVA suits are pressurized to about 220 millimeters of mercury. That's about 4.3 psi, or about 0.29 of an atmosphere. It's almost pure oxygen environment inside the spacesuit. The Russian spacesuits are pressurized to a slightly higher level. Over.
Hi, Dr. Thirsk. This is Sean. I was wondering, what is it like to look out the window and instead of seeing a tree or a car, you see the Earth and stars from space? Over.
Hi, Steve. I'm looking down right now on Canada. We're overflying northern Ontario. The weather down there looks excellent. We'll certainly be flying over Nova Scotia in the next few minutes. Looking out the window and seeing the Earth and stars gives me more of a global perspective and an appreciation for the beauty of our universe. I realize also that the major problems facing humanity today are environmental damage, poverty, and overpopulation. Over.
Good morning, Dr. Thirsk. This is Tim. Now that the International Space Station is fully crewed with the different science modules from its partners, USA, Canada, ESA, Russia, and Japan, how do you cope with all the different time zones that the ISS represents, given that it takes the ISS only approximately 90 minutes to make an orbit? Over.
Hi, Tim. I have a crewmate who's just a couple meters away from me, also named Tim. He's looking down on Canada right now with a camera in his hands. We've decided to use Greenwich Mean Time as our time aboard the space station. This is a compromise for all the mission control centers around the world who are associated with the space station project. So it's a compromise for the Eastern mission control centers in Moscow and in Japan versus the Western ones in Houston, Huntsville, Munich, and Montreal. Over.
Good morning, Dr. Thirsk. My name's Paul. Do you see iridium flares, or are you at the wrong angle to see them from the ISS? Over.
Hi, Paul. Unfortunately, no, we do not see the iridium flares, but that is only because the vast majority of our windows are downward looking. We don't have the opportunity to look upward to the orbit where the iridium satellites fly. If we did have access to more of these windows, we would see them. Over.
Hello, Dr. Thirsk. My name is Patrick. When people on the ISS are off duty, how much time do they spend looking at the Earth passing by? Over.
Good morning, Patrick. We have several leisure time activities that we like to do. Exercising is a good one, emailing, reading, but by far our favorite leisure time activity is talking on the phone with our families and looking out the window. There is just not enough time for that, even though we could probably spend a good hour at the window every day. Over.
Over.
Hi, Bob. My name's Murray Nicholson, another U of C mechanical engineer. My question is, after the station is completed, will its altitude be raised beyond the present construction altitude to reduce the orbital decay rate? Over.
Hi, it's great to talk to a University of Calgary alumnus. No, the orbital attitude will not be raised, and the reason for that is that the station is serviced by cargo vehicles from Russia, Europe, and Japan. It would be more difficult for the cargo vehicles to reach the station if we were at a higher altitude. Over.
Hello, Dr. Thirsk. This is William. Prince Edward Island is noted for its red soil and for the 13-kilometer-long Confederation Bridge linking the island to New Brunswick. Is either of these particularly noticeable from the ISS? And if so, what is your impression? Over.
Hi, William. Both are noticeable. The red soil of Prince Edward Island is a very distinguishing mark of that province, and the Confederation Bridge is barely visible, but it is possible. I am starting to develop some ability to recognize points of Canada, regions of Canada, by the geological and landscape characteristics. I don't have to rely on a map anymore. Over.
Здравствуйте. This is Sarah. With all the space junk that has accumulated in Earth's orbit, how is the ISS protected? Over.
Hi, Sarah. The number one protective method is a preventative one. We do track space debris that gets close to the space station from the ground. So objects that are about the size of a grapefruit or larger can be tracked. And we will do a debris avoidance maneuver. We will get out of the way of any debris that's going to approach us in the next few days or so. We're also protected by special shielding around most of the modules that can help us withstand very small particles. We also have airtight hatches which can be closed in a depressurized situation, and the crew is well trained to deal with depressurizations. Over.
Good morning, Dr. Thirsk. My name is Quinn, and welcome to Nova East and the International Year of Astronomy. I understand that the ISS requires periodic firings of the engines to maintain orbital altitude. Will the ISS eventually run out of fuel for these burns, or can it be refueled in orbit? Over.
Good morning, Quinn. Good question. Yes, we can be refueled in orbit. Progress vehicles periodically visit us, and they bring along not only supplies for the crew, they also bring fuel that will allow our engines to be replenished. The cargo vehicles themselves can fire their engines to raise our orbit. And you probably heard that next week the space shuttle will dock to our space station, and we can even use space shuttle engines to raise our orbit. Over.
Hi Bob, it's Mary Lou. Our species is heavily impacting Earth's biosphere. How easy is it to see human-made changes to Earth's land surface, and can you see any evidence of our impact on the oceans and our atmosphere? Over.
Hi, Mary Lou. Yes, we certainly can see the impact of human activity on the planet. You know, the first few days we're up here, we're only stunned by the beauty of the planet. But as our eyes get more accustomed to viewing the Earth and get more accommodated, we can see destructive human activity, such as overgrazing, overpopulation. We no longer allow clear-cut forestry practices in Canada anymore, but we can see the evidence of past wrongful practices. Over.
Hello again, Dr. Thirsk. It's Carlotta again. How do you regulate your internal clock, your circadian rhythm?
Hi, Carlotta. Regulating our internal body rhythm is a difficult thing to do because we're no longer exposed to sunlight, which is one of the major drivers of our circadian rhythm at home. Instead, our biological rhythms are just sorted out by our meal pattern and by our activity pattern. The space shuttle will be launching soon to visit us, and we are going to have to change our sleep patterns to accommodate the shuttle's schedule. That will be a difficult process. It will probably take me a good week to get used to the new time pattern. Over.
Hi, Dr. Thirsk. William again. Do you have access to a telescope or binoculars on the ISS? If so, what are the basic specs? And what do you look at? Planets? The moon? Earth? Over.
Hi. Yes, we do have access to binoculars and to cameras, but no telescope. I'm holding binoculars in my hand right now, which are made by a typical well-known German company. Their characteristics are 8 by 32. And now I'm picking up a camera. Which has an 800 millimeter lens on it. This is probably our favorite device for looking at the Earth and at the stars. Over.
Good morning, Dr. Thirsk. My name is Pat. The sun often emits energetic flares. Should a large one happen to be directed at Earth, how is the International Space Station protected? Over.
Hi, Patrick. We are protected by safe haven areas aboard the station. There are regions of the station that have more metal shielding than other portions. If a solar flare were to occur, we would all congregate in that one area. You may be interested to know that in my sleep, water is a very good absorber of incoming radiation. Over. Well, that's the end of the ham radio pass. If you talk to my colleagues on Earth or my crewmates on orbit, they'll tell you that I can be a little bit wordy. So the trick with these ARIS, amateur radio on board the International Space Station ham passes, the trick is to keep the answers short. I did my best today. I don't think I got through all the questions that the that the attendees had. This was what is called a Nova East Star Party. There's a group from the Radio Amateurs Astronomical Society of Canada based out of Halifax Center. This morning they were meeting at Smiley Provincial Park, which is near Windsor, Nova Scotia, just a little bit north and to the west of Halifax. And they'll have seminars and workshops, and of course in the evening they'll have observation time. That's why they call it a star party. I did my best to give them brief answers, but some of the questions they asked were pretty tough to answer with just 3 or 4 sentences. ARIS is a wonderful, wonderful program. It introduces students and the public to the magic of spaceflight, also to the magic of communications. This event took me 10 minutes to prepare for and 10 minutes to conduct, but you can believe that the people on the Earth probably spent weeks and months preparing for this event. Today's event was a little bit different because we did not use a telebridge. We did not use a ham radio station somewhere else in the world to meet with the group of interested people. We used a radio site at Smiley Provincial Park. Undoubtedly, some of my friends from the Radio Amateurs of Canada, RAC, were involved in setting up the technical side of the event. And they probably spent days and weeks testing their equipment to make sure this would work. Because of the constraints of astronauts' timelines or orbital mechanics, the group on the ground has one chance to get this right. If we don't have the communication pass well, that's an opportunity that's lost. As you heard this morning, it worked very well. They sounded very happy to be speaking with an astronaut on orbit. And it's good for me to have the opportunity to speak to people on Earth. I enjoy my crewmates. We socialize an awful lot. We laugh an awful lot. But it's good to have that connection with the people that really support us on the ground. Speaking of support, ARIS Canada is largely coordinated by Steve and Laurie McFarland from Ottawa, Ontario. They do a magnificent job. I'll have several of these kinds of ham radio passes with Canadian groups as well as international groups. I may even have the opportunity to speak with students at some of my former elementary and high schools as well. That'll be a real treat in the coming school year. Ken Ransom at the Johnson Space Center coordinates ARIS worldwide for all the partners, and we also have some very dear colleagues in Belgium as well who coordinate the European contacts. All of this is volunteer. We do this on our own time. The people who coordinate it on the ground do it on their own time, and people like Ken Ransom, the McFarlands, do this on their own time, just out of the good graces of their hearts. It's a wonderful, wonderful activity, strongly advocated by the astronaut crew, and brings big benefits and big smiles to people on Earth. Well, that's for ARIS and ham radio ops today. We also make use of the radio for random calls with radio amateurs on the ground, and we also set the radio to packet mode as well. Every day we write a short message that describes the activities that we've just completed on board the station or about to complete in the next day or so. It's a good way to stay in touch. Goodbye from the International Space Station.